So I want to welcome you all to the November Think-a-Thon. Today, we're going to go over how to set up and use the ScHARe platform and how to begin using the new ScHARe data repository. The ScHARe data repository, remember, NIH has a requirement that all data management and sharing policies, all data has to be posted and shared. So we created this repository more for the social sciences. So we will go over how to use that repository. It will not be live to the public until January. We're going to have a big launch, but we want to get people prepared to using it. This session, as all Think-a-Thons, will be posted on the NIMHD webpage, and one of CITM's people will put that in the chat so you know. And every Think-a-Thon is posted there with the slides as well as the video recording. So we're just trying to get people ready to use the repository. And when it becomes live, of course, if you forgot everything because you had turkey or ham overload, then we can definitely use this Think-a-Thon recording to remind yourself. I am going to go ahead and get started because we have a lot to cover today. First of all, today, of course, I'm presenting, and Mark Aronson is also going to present the ScHARe platform, and he's a new husband, so we have to give him an applause. And then Elif Didi Yildirim will then go over the repository and how to use the repository. And then we'll wrap it right back up. So I'm going to turn it over to CITM right now because they're going to have you log on to Slido. This is important because a lot of our Think-a-Thons are interactive and we want you to participate. So please, Kevin.
Great, thank you, Dr. Duran. So as Dr. Duran mentioned, we're going to be using Slido throughout today's webinar as a way for you to share your feedback. To use Slido, you can either download the Slido app on your phone or simply go to slido.com on your phone or your computer. Alternatively, you can scan the QR code on the screen you see here on your mobile device, and that will bring up today's Slido. My colleague Elizabeth will be putting the link for today's Slido in the chat now, so you can also just click that link. For today's Slido, you're going to use the code ScHARE, which you see on the screen here. And as you get logged in, I will go ahead now and launch our first Slido poll of the day.
And by the way, we use these same two polls to start every Think-a-Thon. It helps us get a sense of our audience, and it also helps me make sure that you guys can use Slido. So we start with these to get you started. So please log on and start responding.
We see those responses starting to come in, so thank you everyone for doing that. We'll give it just a few more minutes, a few more seconds here while we see the responses coming in. I'll go ahead here and show the answers to our first poll.
And I always like doing this because it gives me a sense of who is attending it today. And one of the things that makes me feel warm and fuzzy about my job is that the people who have no experience with Python, cloud computing, Terra, those kinds of things. I love doing these think-a-thons to introduce you to these new concepts because it is truly the wave of the future in AI and data science, and it's not going away. And it's going to take over more and more aspects of our life. So I really want all of us to get more familiar and less mystified by AI and cloud computing. And especially the people that are here, which are health outcomes and health disparity researchers, because we need to stay in the fold of innovative science. Okay.
And I'll move on to our second question here, just to show us what you're interested in.
Okay, see the results, Kevin? Well, y'all came to the right place because much of what we're doing is to gain these skills in leveraging big data. Because without big data, we continue to stay kind of in a rut with the science. And as more technology is able to let us utilize big data, the better results we're going to get. So glad you're all here, and you're just the people that we target for our think-a-thons. So I'm glad that you're here and that you're not intimidated by not knowing Python or R, because that's why we're doing this. So I'm going to take this screen back, Kevin. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So before we get into the real nitty-gritty of everything, I always like to do this overview because there's some people who are brand new to ScHARe. So we want to talk about what ScHARe is. And notice the little tagline, be a part of the future of knowledge generation. So ScHARe was really designed for these 5 critical gaps. 1, to increase the participation of women and underrepresented populations with health disparities in data science using cloud computing, which kind of goes with our second goal, which is really creating a paradigm shift in how health disparities, health outcomes research is done, so that we can utilize big data and the technologies that are being developed. It actually gives us a more comprehensive view, and we can do more analytics with bigger data sets. We always pay attention to bias mitigation and ethical inquiry because, as you know, in fact, there was just one in the Washington Post today about AI biases against low-income people. So these kind of biases can be mitigated, and this is why it's so important to get people who care about this trained to do AI. Because if we're involved in the development of AI, we're going to have less of these biases that cause harm to different population groups. The 4th reason that we really invested in this is because not every institution has the funds to develop cloud computing resources. So we really target community colleges and low resource minority serving institutions because oftentimes they don't have the money to build these kind of platforms because they do cost millions of dollars. So you don't have to build your own, you can just use this one. And then it's a useful resource, and everyone can upskill in data science without having their institutions spend millions of dollars. And then the last reason is that, and the last part of our presentation today, is to offer a data repository in compliance with the data management and sharing policy that is really focused on health outcomes, social determinants of health, health disparities, more of the social sciences, because most of the clouds at NIH do basic science. When ScHARe was created, and Mark is going to go over this in more detail, so I'm just going to gloss over it. It has a Terra, what we call a Terra interface. It's a Google platform. You can do secure workspaces on this, copy and paste code. Mark's going to go over all of this with you in more detail. And one of the things that the reason we chose the Terra interface is because 3 of the other major cloud resources at NIH are Anvil, that has genomics data, Biodata Catalyst, that has lots of other omic data, and All of Us, which is genetic and population science. With the Terra interface, it allows us to cross these platforms more easily. And here's the great thing about this. Once you learn Terra, like on our platform through our series, you can use Terra on any one of those other platforms. So they're no longer a barrier to you. Our entire ScHARe components has the Terra interface. We have data sets, we have computational tools, we have a ScHARe web portal. We have in the repository, we have it's focused on CDEs, common data elements. We also have a data aggregation tool, which will make it easier for you to combine data sets. So it's a plethora of resources for you, and it's available both intramural and extramural. In the secure workspaces, and Mark is going to go over how to do this, it's almost, think of it like this. It's like having your own laptop, but in a cloud. So no one can get into your space unless you give them permission to get into that space. It is totally safe. There's no hacking, there's no stealing of your data when you're in secure workspace on the Terra interface. And Mark will show you how to set one of these up a little bit later. He's also going to go over all the different analysis and modular codes that we can use, because we also know, just like you did in your first response, not every one of us knows Python and R. So we've developed these notebooks so that you can just cut and paste code, and you don't have to know Python and R to do that. We have over 270 data sets. We call it a data ecosystem. The 270 data sets that we have now are what we call federated public data sets. So there's no PII yet. As the repository opens, then there's going to be data sets with PII and the requirement for data use agreements, at least for now. As I said, we have every time I look at this, it grows another 10. So now we have over 280. We also have Google hosted data sets, like the American Community Survey, and Mark will go over how to access all of those. The data sets that we have that are public, we've organized them by the social determinants of health that CDC uses, which is economic stability, education, healthcare access, neighborhood and built environments, and social and community context. We also added 2 other categories, health behaviors and some disease and conditions, not a lot. So the reason we added health behaviors is because social determinants of health are not behaviors, and behaviors are not social determinants of health. We have only some disease and disorders. It's because we can link to any other repository and get disease and disorder. So there's no sense in double storing data. These are the categories and the definitions of them. They're pretty self-explanatory. The only ones that I think people have sometimes a little bit of a difficulty understanding is the neighborhood and built environments. This is really talking about the infrastructure of your neighborhood, you know, the toxins in the water, pollutants, you know, if you live in rural versus urban, if you have factories, that kind of stuff. And the social and community context is really what happens socially within your neighborhoods, you know, things like crime rates, amount of exercise because of green space, that kind of stuff. The rest of them are pretty self-explanatory. These are the same categories that CDC uses, and the social determinants of health, by definition, in case you've never heard of them before, which I doubt, the social determinants of health are where we work, live, and play. And so it's almost everything in our environment. And in fact, some research shows that it constitutes most of the reasons for our health. These are just a list of some of the data sets. Of course, you can, I'm going to show you a link in a minute, and you can see all the 280 data sets that are there. This is how you get to the Google hosted data sets. And this scan or this URL, the scan here or the URL down here, will bring you to the list of data sets, so you have a sense of which data sets are there. I always have to laugh at the scan because laptops can't do that. So I make sure we always have the URL. You can always get to the data sets in that URL, and someone will put that into the chat for you. I want to talk about one other thing before I turn it over to my colleagues. One of the things that we're really beginning to focus on, and I'm not, even if you are a researcher with NIH, common data elements are on a rise in use. And the reason for that is because it makes projects easier. The reason this is so important today is because common data element is a question, like a survey question, with defined allowable responses. What makes this different than just a survey or a protocol is because every word in that question and in that response is semantically defined in a standardized way. In that standardized definition, they also get a code. So CDEs have a standardized definition with a standardized code that allows you to have better data interoperability across different data sets. When we use common data elements, the benefits are up on the top of the screen in purple. It allows you to start your project faster. You have better data aggregation across projects. You have a shared understanding and meaning. It's easy to follow the concepts with the responses. And because we use the codes, we actually have what we call a URL approach for better data interoperability, meaning that if you and I have two totally different data sets, two totally different programs, but we collected the same CDEs, it allows me to easily aggregate our data sets together. We have to start thinking of the world of science no longer in silos, because with AI, cloud computing, big data, no one's data set is going to be by itself anymore. People are going to go in and aggregate and collect it and put it all together. So we have to think of using CDEs in order.
You want some, baby?
ScHARe has a core set of CDEs that we recommend that all grantees collect. These are the recommended. If you go here to this NIH CDE repository and you click on there and you put in ScHARe core CDEs, you will get all the CDEs, all their definitions, all their responses, their codes based upon NCI thesaurus and LOINC codes. And we have an English and a Spanish version available to you. And very soon we're going to make sure that we all use the same data labels, because we can collect the same questions, but if we don't have the same data labels, it still makes our data sets very difficult to collect. Notice on the screen that all of these in lighter color are individual, but we also have two that are called project level CDEs. The reason these are important is because you will be asked these questions and Elif will go over it when you get to the repository. This allows us to have some synergy, some interoperability of what kind of work are grantees doing, both in health disparities and at the NIMH data framework, which I will show you shortly. This is the NIMHD framework. And the way the CD sets up, it's the level of influence by the domains of influence. So those that are in pink here, those that are in pink here. And as you can see, every project would fall someplace in this matrix. So you're asked that in the repository. And I wanted you to have this concept before Elif gets to it. This is what it looks like on a question. Remember, I said every CDE is just a question with acceptable responses. So this is the question. These are the acceptable responses. The second project level is dealing with health disparity outcomes. So we at NIH focus on these minority health populations. Notice that there's an additional category here called Middle Eastern or North African, MENA. And now Hispanic is part of the entire list of race and ethnicity rather than separated as a different question. This is the new OMB directive. It's not in place until 2025. And external people do not have to ultimately use it until 2029. But it's coming, it's going to be there. So you might as well start earlier than later, because notice for any of you guys that are doing methodology, because the categories change, it's going to create a lot of havoc in aggregating old data sets to new data sets. Not impossible, just a process. And then we have the health disparities populations, which are racial ethnic groups, people with low SES, underserved rural, sexual gender minority groups, and people with disabilities. This is the focus of all the research that we do, and it's the focus of the NIH Minority Health Disparities Strategic Plan. We're not saying that there's not others, but these are the populations that we focus on. These are the health disparity outcomes that when you put into the repository, you have to pick one of these. So this is a way that we are operationalizing what kind of health outcomes research are you doing, health disparities research. And this is what the question looks like. Are you doing minority health research, health disparities research, or other health outcomes and healthcare delivery research? And then you pick one of these. And Elif will go over that later. One last thing I'm going to cover before I turn the mic over is that we do these ScHARe Think-a-Thons every month on the third Wednesday. We do this because it's a platform for generational career and discipline exchange. We have data scientists and health disparities researchers. We have old and young. new investigators, senior investigators, students, and advanced career levels. And we teach each other, especially when we do the research think-a-thons. We have 2 different types of think-a-thons, or actually 3 different types. These tutorials, like the one today, then we have research think-a-thons, and I'm happy to say that 2 of our research think-a-thon groups that we launched are in their final stages for publication. So we'll be starting new research think-a-thons probably in a couple months, if you're interested. These are the think-a-thons that we've done in the past. You can use this link right here to not only see all the different think-a-thon PowerPoints, but also the recorded videos. And when we do this kind of work, especially in research think-a-thons, we really foster the understanding of transparency and how do we do ethical AI. We also are in partnership with Aim Ahead. If you haven't heard of them, Aim Ahead is another initiative that really focuses on upskilling racial and ethnic diverse populations into data science. So we have a training pipeline with them. We try to get you started here and move you into Aim Ahead. So that's the end of my section. So now I'm going to ask you to log on to the Slido poll and take this poll. Mark or Kevin?
You should see the next Slido poll here on the screen, and you should also see it pulled up in Slido when you're logged on. Go ahead and respond.
I tried to trick you. Okay, Kevin, let's see what they did. Oh, man. I didn't trick you at all. Most of you got it 100% right. The answer is C. The answer is C because it's semantically defined and it can be similarly used. So this was the trick that I tried to do, is because it doesn't have to be word for word, because once you have a CDE and things are defined, you can actually map them. So they don't have to be the exact same word. But those of you who answered B, that is partially correct. Yes, they are questions that are asked the same way by everyone in the study. But the question is most true. So we needed the semantic definition to it. Good job, you guys paid attention. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Mark.
Okay, hey everyone. So thank you, Deb, for the introduction there. Like Deb said, I'm Mark. I'm a new member on the ScHARe team, a data scientist on the team, and I'm excited to get to show you all kind of a one half of the ScHARe platform, which is the Terra platform that we use for cloud computation. And my goal
Sorry
today.
to interrupt. I'm really sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but we are seeing your we're seeing your presenter view, not
Oh,
the full screen. I'm
okay,
sorry.
thank you. 1 second then. Yes, okay. How's that looking, Kevin?
That looks perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through our cloud compute portion of the ScHARe platform, something called Terra. But before we get started, I really kind of want to just ground us in what are we talking about with an interface to cloud computing. And so for an easy reference, I want to think about the situation with your computer or phone that you're watching this Zoom on right now. Right, that device, your laptop, your smartphone, your desktop has 2 major components. It has your data storage, your hard drive, and it has something that performs computations, right? A lot of the times it's your central processing unit on your computer or a CPU. And the way that you, as a human, interact with this combination of data storage and computations is through the operating system on your computer. So Windows or Mac OS, or if on your phone, maybe it's the iOS. And that is how you interact with those portions of the computer. Now, cloud computer is essentially the same thing. So in the case of Terra, which is built on top of the Google Cloud Platform, which is why you need a Google account in order to be able to use it, instead of hard drives and CPUs, we have what are called storage devices and servers, but they perform these same functions of data storage and computation. And rather than sitting in a machine right in front of you, there are giant numbers of these sitting in massive data centers that are spread out all over the world. And the way that you as a person interact with these is, in the case of ScHARe, through the Terra interface. So you can almost think of Terra as your operating system to use a cloud computer. So with that background, I want to dive into what I'm hoping to accomplish today in my portion of today's Think-a-Thon. And it really comes down to three things. First, I want to show the full process for getting up and running on Terra. If you've never registered for ScHARe or made an account before, we're going to get you all the way from the NIH website up through being able to run your own code. The next thing that I want to do is give you a tour of some of the resources that we've put on to Terra, and Deb previewed this in the first part of the presentation. And lastly, I want to give those concrete steps to actually pulling in some data and making a really simple plot of some data from the American Community Survey. So if that all sounds good, we'll go ahead and break down this first portion, getting set up on Terra, into 3 steps. First, we need to register for ScHARe. Then we need to create a Terra account. And lastly, we need to link a billing account. So let's start with that first register for ScHARe portion. And the way that I'm going to walk you all through this is I had done some screen recordings of myself going through the exact process. So this should be very similar, if not exactly the same, to what it would look like for you if you were to go through the process yourself. And we're going to start on the ScHARe website, which the URL is right there. You can also I usually just Google NIH ScHARe to be able to pull up this website. And so here we are on the ScHARe website. You're going to look for that orange button right there that says register for ScHARe. And this is going to take you to the registration page. And what we're looking for is that big purple button in the middle that says register for ScHARe on Terra. And clicking this is going to take you to this Microsoft Forms link that's going to ask just a little bit of basic information that we need to get you set up on the platform. So as I was filling this out, my name is Mark Aronson. My role, I'm a data scientist. And I'm currently at the NIH. And my email for NIH is mark.aronson@nih.gov. And then the Google address, I made a brand new Google account just for this demonstration. And because I love Terra so much, I think I came up with the name TerraFan1111. And yep, that's exactly what I did. And then we just ask a couple other questions to understand a little bit about you all, our users on the platform. So everything from, do you want to receive emails to us, to a description of why you want to join the ScHARe platform. I think here I just said something like test tutorial, just to fill out the box. And again, we just kind of want to understand what y'all are looking for to use on the platform. So are you looking to do your own work? Are you looking to connect with new collaborators on the platform? And just like our Think-a-Thons, we're just curious about some of the technical background that everyone is coming from. So we have a very similar set of questions for experience in data science and health disparities research. And then again, we just want to understand where people are coming from. And so we ask if you identify as a member from a health disparities population. I personally do not. And then the zip code.
So Mark, can you give them just a minute in case people were logging on with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of go through. While people are probably logging on with you, why don't you just go right back up to the top and just explain one more time?
Yes. Okay. So we start right here on the ScHARe webpage, the URL down in that bottom left there. But also you can just Google NIH ScHARe. That's usually my way of doing this.
The link is in the chat.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Now you can go through just like you did prior.
Great. So you're going to hit that orange register for ScHARe button. and it's going to take you to this registration page. And the thing that we're looking for is that big purple button that says register for ScHARe on Terra. And when you click that, you're brought to this Microsoft Forms link. And we're just going to ask for some basic information there to get you set up and registered on the platform. And so you can see the recording of me filling out all the information there that you need to get started. And I'm seeing a lot of, on our back end, a lot of requests coming through. So that means that a lot of y'all figured out how to do this on your own, which is great. Okay. Deb, should we let it keep going, or should we jump ahead here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said you can just keep going because people just
Okay.
want to do it with you. I just wanted you to go back over it again as they do it.
Perfect.
So we can move along.
Okay. So the last thing, I'm just going to jump a little ahead in this video because I want to show you the last page you're going to see. After you hit that submit button, you're going to see this confirmation page. And once you see this, this means that you have successfully registered for ScHARe. We've gotten all of the information that we need to verify and then set up your registration on ScHARe. So once you see this screen, you have successfully completed that first step. So if we go back to our checklist, that register for ScHARe, we have completed that with the ScHARe registration form. You see that confirmation screen. Now you're ready to go on to the next step. So after you register for ScHARe, you're going to, and we approve your registration, you're going to get an email. And that is where we're going to pick up this tutorial. So now in this video, we're going to start with the email that will come through once we approve your registration. And so it's going to be from ScHARe. The subject's going to be welcome to ScHARe. And this email will give you all the instructions that you need to do to complete your registration. And the next step being to register for an account on Terra. So in this video, I received that email. I'm going to go ahead and open it. And this has all the instructions that you need, everything that I'm walking you all through right now. But the thing that we really need to pay attention to is step number 1, which is to click on that link to go to Terra. So when you click that first hyperlink, it's going to bring you to the Terra website. So this is the homepage on Terra. This is that interface that we use to communicate with the Google Cloud. And the first thing that we need to do is hit that big blue sign in button. And what you're not going to see in this tutorial is something that pops up in a different window that I didn't record, but it's going to be a simple Google sign-in. And you're just going to sign in with that same Google account that you provided on the ScHARe registration. You're going to agree to the terms of agree to the terms of ScHARe and Terra. And then that is going to bring you to the registration page. So if you're following along at home, once you receive that email, you can go to Terra and you can do your registration here. And so it's going to pull in some information from your Google account, but ask for a couple of other things. So your organization and department.
Mark,
We're here.
I need you to slow down.
Yeah.
Because people are going with you. So give them a little bit of time. Okay.
Okay.
Slow down.
So I'll just rewind this a little bit. So again, the next thing that you're looking for is this email from the ScHARe platform. That's going to be from ScHARe, and the subject line is going to be welcome to ScHARe. And when you click on that email, you're going to see all the instructions that you need to proceed from this point, registering for Terra and setting up your Terra account. And the thing that we're paying attention to is that first hyperlink, the access to the ScHARe Terra workspace. And that's going to bring you to this page, the Terra main page on the Terra website. And so what you need to do once you get to this page, you hit the sign in button. And then it's going to bring up a sign in where you're going to say sign in with Google. And you're going to use that same Google account that you used to register for ScHARe.
Hi, it's your meeting support help, Elizabeth. I'm just wondering if either Deb or you are seeing the messages in the chat regarding either receiving the email right now, or is there a chance that it will be received during this session?
So it takes a little bit of time. So those of you who are actually going along and signing up with us right now, you're not going to get that email until there's like a little gap. Like, think of it like gremlins holding it.
I just got mine, just to let everyone know.
Yeah, so sometimes there's a little bit of a delay, and you also won't get access until you're approved. So we'd we can do some of that on the fly, but mostly we will do it after the call. If Elif or Mohammed, if you guys want to approve some of these people, it's fine. But I'm just telling everybody on the call, you may not get approved right now. But
Yes, so
you will
Deb,
be approved at the end of the call.
yeah, so Deb, I can see that on the back end, Mohammed and Elif are frantically going through and approving people as you filled it out. So like we said, there's a little bit of a delay before getting that email, but you should definitely have it by the end of the call. Mohammed and Elif are working, yeah, frantically behind the scenes here to get people approved.
So if you're not approved yet, just realize there's little gremlins and processes in place. But by the end of the Think-a-Thon and by an hour after the Think-a-Thon, all of you will have been put onto the system.
Yep, and this is also why we're making a recording of this so that you can also follow along after the fact. Once you're approved and are on the platform, you can come back and watch this and follow along with exactly what you need to do next. All right, Deb, should we keep moving?
Oh, sorry, Mark, I'm saying yes.
Okay, great.
I was muted.
Okay, so we're gonna jump to after you've done that Google login and you're filling out that registration page. Again, Tara just wants to know a little bit about their users, what you're looking for to get out of the platform. And the last thing that you need to do is go ahead and pull up these terms of service. So bring up that dialog box, and I'll leave reading all of this to you all as a little homework assignment after the session. But you'll just scroll down to the bottom and close that.
But the gist of the terms of service is basically that you're not going to misuse the information and that you're going to be ethical and play nice. That's basically what it says.
That's correct. Yes. So then once you've accepted the terms, you can go ahead and hit that registration button. And once you do that, it is going to bring you to the ScHARe workspace, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So this means that you have both successfully registered for ScHARe because you can see the workspace, and you've successfully set up your Tara account. So with this step, you have done those 2 steps, 2 out of the 3 to get started on the Tara platform. So if we go back to our checklist, we have registered for ScHARe. Yep.
I need you to go a little bit slower. We're getting people in the chat going, please slow down.
Got it.
So let's go back 1 step.
Okay, so let's go ahead and jump back to the email. So you have gotten that email from ScHARe. Again, on the back end, Mohammed and Elif are going through and approving a lot of you. You're going to go look for that email from ScHARe with the subject line, welcome to ScHARe. And you're going to, this has all of these instructions, but the thing we really need to pay attention to is that first link that says access the ScHARe Tara workspace in step 1. And when we click on that link, that's going to bring you to the Tara webpage. And the thing that you need to do here is click that big blue sign in button. And that's going to pop up a new window where you're going to sign in with a Google account. And you want to sign in with the same Gmail that you use to register for the ScHARe platform. So those 2 are linked together. And once you go ahead and sign in, then it's going to bring you to the new user registration page for Terra. So here's that new user registration page. It's going to pull in a little bit of information from your Google account. And we just will ask for a little bit more information about your organization and department and your title that you can see I'm filling out there. So NIH and NIMHD, and my title is a data scientist. And then for Terra's purposes, they're curious what their users are going to want to use the platform for. So select all data apply for yourself. And then just click on down at the bottom, the Terra terms of service, bringing that up and reading through those before hitting agree to complete your registration. And you can check that box and hit register. And if you've done these 2 steps successfully, you should see the ScHARe workspace here on the Terra platform. For people that have gotten the emails, can you just sound off in the chat real quick if you're caught up on this, or if I can review it one more time if need be?
We don't need to review it again.
Okay.
For those of you who haven't got the email and in process, we just need to cover more. So we're going to move on. Know that the video and the PowerPoints will be available. Sometimes it helps just to pay attention instead of trying to figure it out. So go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
But just at a slower space.
Perfect. So now we have created our Terra account. So we're 2/3 of the way done with getting set up. The last thing that we need to do, Zacharias, great question. We are going to cover the billing account. And the most important part of this is that in setting up your billing account, Google Cloud starts you off with $300 of free compute credits. So we start this billing account, you get $300 of free credit, which for most analyses will last you quite a bit. So I want to show you how to get that free credit to use for your Terra account. So we're going to go back to the screen recordings here, and I'll kind of pause and work our way slowly through this. So we're going to start with you logged in on Terra. You're going to hit that hamburger menu up in the upper left to pull up this side menu. And I want you to click on your name if you're following along with us at home. And this name is going to bring up this drop-down menu. Yijong, the $300 credit, I believe, expires after 90 days. Deb or Ella, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Okay, so we're going to bring up this menu, and what I want you to go to is the billing submenu here. So click on the word billing, and that is going to bring you to this page. And this is a really great step-by-step tutorial that helps you get set up with that billing account that's going to get you this $300 of free credit. And I'm going to follow along with this in this video. So once you've got to this billing page, oops, sorry. I'm going to jump ahead there. Okay, so step 1, you are going to go ahead and hit that Go to Google Cloud Console link. And this is going to open up a new tab, bringing you to Google Cloud Console. And when you first get here, you're going to get this welcome screen where you're going to specify what country you're in and then agree to the Google Cloud Terms of Service. And so you'll see me in this tutorial go ahead and I'm here in the US, and I'll click to the agree to the Terms of Service. And this welcomes you to the Google Cloud page. And so to get those $300 of credits you see right there on the menu, we're going to go over to the left-hand side, open up this hamburger menu, and we're going to go down to pin products, and you're going to look for billing. So again, we're going to go up to that upper left menu. We're going to go down to billing, and we're going to follow that to the billing menu. So let that load. All right, so now we have followed Google Cloud, and we are ready to go ahead and create a billing account. So we finished step 1 on setting up the billing account. We're going to go to step 2 to create a new billing account. So we'll go back to, after we see that, we'll go back to that tab. And this is where we're going to hit that Add Billing Account button. Okay, so it's going to ask for a little bit of account information to get this set up. And the next thing that it's going to do is ask for a little bit of payment information. So for this tutorial, I skip this over, but you will just enter in your address and a payment method. But again, this is starting free with those $300 of credits to work with. So the tutorial is going to skip ahead here. Okay, so once you've done that, you are brought back to the Google Cloud website, and they have their set of questions that they're curious about. But if you want to, you can go ahead and just close those out and skip those. So here they have these questions, and I just close them out. And so that completes step 2. We've set up our Google Cloud billing account. And so I'm going to go back to, oh, sorry. We're going to go ahead and pull this up one more time and go back to that billing menu. Okay, so we got brought back to the Google Cloud site. We went to that left-hand menu and we clicked billing again. And we need to do one more thing here. And that's to go down to this account management on the left-hand side. So you just saw my mouse do that. So here we're going down to account management. And now I'm going to go back over to Tara, where it's going to tell me, we're going to check in on this checklist here. So now in step 2, we've created that billing account. So the third thing that we need to do is we need to add Tara to our billing account. So this will link our Tara account with our Google Cloud billing so that they can talk to each other. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to get that email, tarabilling@tara.bio. We're going to go ahead and copy that. And we'll go back over to Google Cloud, and we're going to look for this over on the right-hand side, this Add Principal button. So again, we went to billing by clicking on that hamburger menu in the top left. We hit billing, and then in billing, we went all the way down to account management. And then once we got the email from Tara, we're going to go over to this Add Principal button. And under this new principals, we're going to paste in that Tara email. So that we'll assign that. And then the role that we want to assign here is we want to go down to billing. And we're going to use billing account user for the Tara email. So once we selected that, we can hit save. And now if you go over to that billing account user, you'll now see tarabilling@firecloud.org. And if you've done that, that means that you've set this up correctly. Min, I'm seeing a question about how much you can accomplish with $300. Oh yes, Deb, what's up?
I can tell you that you will get most of whatever you do in social science accomplished, because it's minimal to do that data. It's the genetic data that costs so much.
Yeah, genetic data, you'd have to be training like a serious language model or something to use enough computation to use up $300. So for 95% of what you'd be doing related to ScHARe, that will probably last you the full 90 days. Okay, so we've added Tara as this billing account user, which means that we are done with the Google Cloud website. And we can go back to Tara. So I'm going to go back to that menu over here. And I'm going to say that I've added Tara. And this is going to bring up another sign-in menu where you're just going to re-sign in with that Google account. And you're going to approve the link between Tara and Google Cloud. And that unlocks step 4 here, which is allowing you to name your billing project. And I'm going to pause the video here real quick. So this Tara billing project is something that's associated with you and your account. And this will be used to power multiple different projects on Tara. So you can do it something that's specific to you, or if there's a specific account that you're using with it, those are the kind of names that you want for these billing accounts. But for this example, I think I just put in TerraFan11111 for my example. So I go ahead and fill that out there. And I think I maybe accidentally used this one already. So I think when I hit the button, it's going to throw an error. Yes, it was not happy with me there. But I think I add one more one and that takes care of it. So that is the billing account that I created for this. So now that billing menu, rather than showing that 4-step tutorial, you're going to see this information about your billing account. So you can see things like which workspaces the billing account's used for. We'll talk about that in the next section. And you can see which members. Yeah, this is just so that that billing menu is now here. You can see which users are affiliated with that billing account. So if you've done all of those steps, and again, whether you've done them now or you can go follow along after the video and when we get this recording up, then you will have done everything that you need to do to go ahead and get set up on Terra. So just as a review, first we registered for ScHARe on the NIH website. All right, Shakiba, I'm seeing Terra Distill does not have access to any Google Cloud billing accounts.
And we're not going to deal with
Yeah.
any individual problems. So we're not doing this to get you all signed up and using it today. We're giving this as an example. I told you that you will see delays in many of these things as we go through this. And for those of you who are coming along and you're having issues like billing accounts or whatever, you can email us afterwards and we will set everything up for you. We'll help you individually, but not during the session.
Yes, yeah, here we're just giving the overall tutorial for everyone. Okay, so we registered for ScHARe on the ScHARe website. We set up our Terra account, and the last thing we did was link it to a Google Cloud billing account to access those $300 of free credit. So that's everything that we need to get set up on Terra. And so before we go on to the next section, we're going to do a quick comprehension quiz. So Kevin, can you pop in real quick?
Absolutely. You should see here on the screen our next Slido poll question. So we encourage you to log into Slido and answer this poll question for us.
All right, Kevin, let's give it like 10 more seconds and then we'll check the responses here. All right. Okay, y'all killed it. Great job. So yes, you do not need an EDU email for creating your Terra account. You need a Google account because Terra is built on top of Google. And so you'll need to link your billing account to your Terra account to get set up in your own workspace. We'll talk about that in a minute. You need a Google account to register for ScHARe, and then you need to create a Terra account. Okay, so great job with that. So Kevin, I'll go ahead and take back over here. Okay. So the next thing that I want to do is tour you around some of the resources that we have put on for ScHARe on the Terra platform. And here I want to just do a quick Terra terminology. And then there's two main things I want to show you, the data tab and the analyses tab. So starting off with the Terra terminology, we ended that first tutorial with creating a billing account. Just going to pull this up real quick. And these billing accounts can now be used to power different projects. And the projects Terra calls are things called workspaces. These workspaces can contain code and data and can be shared with different people. So for a couple examples, let's think about workspace 1. This might be a project that you and only you are working on. Maybe you have some analysis code there. But in a second project, maybe this is something you're doing with your whole research group. So you can create a second workspace that's connected to that same billing account. And this workspace, maybe you upload some data that your group captured, and you have some analysis code to work with it. So you can take all those pieces and you can share it with your research team. And maybe in a third example, maybe you have a collaboration project that has its own set of data, its own analysis code. And this one you can share with both your research team and a partner team. And the one thing I want to emphasize here is back to those questions around the compute credit, what actually costs money on Terra? And so for this, I want to walk through two scenarios. So in scenario one, you only have analysis code. You are pulling in data from either ScHARe, which we'll talk about in a second. Oh, Roberta, great question. Those are just simply examples. You can think of it as like case studies. You can have as many or as few workspaces as you would like. Those are just different ways that you could use those workspaces for different projects. So I hope that answers your question. So in scenario one, let's think about just having some analysis code. So for that billing account driving that project, like in that first scenario, you can almost think about using the cloud computer like paying for electricity with a lamp. So if you're not actively running any analyses, you're not using electricity, you are not incurring any cost on the platform. But if you're actively running analyses and you're using the account, this is like turning the lamp on. You're using electricity, so you're going to pay for the analysis that's running. And Terra has these features to pause, turn on and off your analysis while you're using it. Now let's think about our second scenario. This is one where you're going to have a little bit of your own data as well as some code. So maybe that second example for that project with your whole research group. So when you're not actively running analyses, you're not using any of the processors, but because you've put up some data, you're using a little bit of the data storage. And so it's a very low, but there is a slight cost to having some of your own data on the Terra platform. And then lastly, if you're actively running analyses, now you're using both the data storage and the servers, and this is going to incur cost. So I just wanted to lay this all out here, just so you all understand a little bit of what actually will use those credits when you're using Terra. And Zacharias, that is correct. Yeah, it's a 3-month, 90-day time limit to use your compute credit. Okay, so that's kind of all the things that I wanted to share about Terra terminology and really just get you comfortable with this idea of a workspace. So now that we introduced that, I want to show you a little bit about the Terra workspace. And so we previewed this a little bit in the opening part that Deb walked through, but on our ScHARe workspace, we have uploaded a number of data sets, and yeah, the number keeps growing. So the latest capture here is, I think, over 300. And as Deb emphasized, these are all public data sets that contain no personal identifiable information. So these are all open and free to use data sets. And I'm going to drag in a window with this just so you can all see what we're working with here. So here is my login on the ScHARe workspace. And I'm going to come up here to this top menu where we see dashboard, and I'm going to click the data tab here. And that's going to take me to the data tab where if I want to see all of the data sets, I'm going to come down on this left-hand side. You can see all those different categories that Deb talked about in the opening section, the social determinants of health, plus those other two. And if we go to the main data sets, we can see every single data set that we have put on the ScHARe workspace that you can pull from and use for your own research. So you can see everything from the name, the category it exists in, you can see the actual underlying data files, the data dictionaries that describe all the different variables for that study, the file format, where we got it from, its size in gigabytes, the source, the sponsor, and the year. So there's tons and tons of information on here that you can use as you browse through these different data sets. Okay, so that's everything with the data that I wanted to show you. So we'll go back over here. And yeah, so we reviewed the data tab where you can see all the sets that we've uploaded onto the ScHARe workspace. So the last thing I want to show you is the analyses tab. But before we dive in, I want to talk a little bit about what having analyses actually looks like on the Terra platform. So when we think about data analytics, I usually think about a combination of two factors. I want some written descriptions to describe where I'm getting the data from, how I'm bringing it in, what I'm doing it to clean it up, and then how I'm analyzing it and how I'm presenting it. So there's going to be some written description, but then also the computer code that's going to perform those functions. And a file format that brings those two things together really nicely is something that's called a Jupyter notebook. So you can think about these notebooks as bringing together written descriptions and the actual computer code that performs your analytics. And the really cool thing about these Jupyter notebooks is that you can use them for different programming languages. So right now on Terra, you can use this Jupyter notebook format, and you can do it in both Python and in R. We like to say that because Python is the language of cloud computing, we really advocate for users kind of getting up to speed and learning Python. And in the demo later, I'm going to show you just a little bit of Python code. But we also have support for R there. Now on the ScHARe workspace, in that analyses tab I'll show you in a minute, we have three main different types of notebooks. And this is something that we're adding more to over the next couple of weeks. But we have what we call reference notebooks. So these are just notebooks with a whole bunch of reference information, and I'll show you that in a second. We have some tutorial notebooks that kind of guide you step by step through something that you might want to do on the ScHARe platform, such as getting an environment set up or installing packages. And we have model notebooks. And these are supposed to be kind of examples of code that you would be able to copy and paste into your own notebook and just change a couple variables to perform your own analyses. So let me go ahead and pull up back over to Terra. So we were here in the data tab, and now I'm going to go over to the analyses tab up here. And once this loads, you're going to see all of these notebooks that we have uploaded here. And so I like to sort this by name so they get in the right order. The first one I want to show you is notebook 0. This is one of those reference notebooks. So this notebook just has a bunch of text that talks about the shared data ecosystem and walks through a number of the different data sets that we have uploaded onto the platform. Now to get back to that list of notebooks, we can just hit the analyses tab. Now, the next thing I want to show you is a tutorial notebook. And a really good example of this is notebook number 4, which describes how to set up a Python environment for you to use it. So here we have a bunch of written computations. And if we go a little bit further down, we can see some actual code that you can run using this notebook. And so here we'll see installing some Python libraries, and this is the actual output from the code. So this is a really good example of a tutorial notebook. And the last thing I want to show you is one of those model notebooks. And notebook number 9 here is a really good example of that. So notebook number 9, we kind of did an entire tutorial walkthrough of how to bring in some data and clean it up and get it ready for some simple analysis. And so you can see the actual code here, along with descriptions of what's going on. Yeah, Deb, what's up?
I need you to slow down.
Okay.
So go back up to the top of it. Slow down.
Okay.
You're going too fast.
All right.
Okay, so bring them back to the notebook. Show them that there's lots of notebooks. Go back to number 9.
Yep.
And just go much slower.
Okay. Yeah, my goal isn't to like explain every line of this notebook, but I do want you all to get a sense of exactly what's on here so that you can make use of it. So here we have an outline of everything that's going to be in the notebook. So everything from bringing in the data, viewing it, understanding the form of the data, some visualizations, cleaning up the data, and then eventually creating some new variables and running some analyses. And so here you'll see this description of something like importing the data. And here's, again, the actual code that is run in this notebook to perform those functions. And you can do things like preview the data set. We'll do this in the last section of the tutorial here in a little bit. That's going to show you the data table that they brought in for this particular example. This is code that you can copy and paste in and replace with your own variables. You can look at all the different data types in some of the data that you're working with. And you can also kind of go through and clean up some data. This is looking at ages of students in this data set. And if we keep going down, we can look at this in a table format. We can filter it for different genders here. And eventually, after some more analysis, again, I'm not trying to walk through every piece of it. I'm just giving you a flavor of what's on here. We eventually get down to some actual data visualization down here where we can start looking at things like a histogram. So again, not the goal to explain every line of this notebook, but just to give you a sense of the resources that are out there that are on the ScHARe workspace. Okay, so those are all the things that I wanted to show you in that analyses tab. And so with that, that completes the walkthrough of the ScHARe workspace. I told you a little bit about what workspaces are on Terra, how you might be able to use them. I showed you some of the data sets that are available on the data tab, and I showed you a number of those notebooks, the reference, the tutorial, and the model notebooks that are in the analyses tab that you could use for your own work. And so before we go on to the last section, we're going to do one more comprehension check. So Kevin, can we swap screens again?
Absolutely. Hopefully on the screen you see the Slido.
Go ahead and read the question, Mark.
Yes. So the question is, which of the following is
You might
true
have
about...
some people on phones.
Yes. Yeah. So the question is, which of the following is true about the data tab in the shared Terra workspace? A, the data sets have personal identifiable information in them. B, the data sets are public data and are free to use. C, the data sets require a data use agreement to be signed into use. D, the data sets are from untrustworthy sources. So Kevin, let's give it like 5 more seconds. Okay, great. So majority of you nailed it. These data sets are all public data and are free to use. You do not need to sign a data use agreement to use the data sets that are on the shared Terra workspace. All right, and with that, Kevin, I'll take back over here. Okay. So the last part that I want to walk you through, now that we have walked through the registration, getting your account set up, walked through all of the resources on the ScHARe workspace, I want to actually break down what you could do in some of your first steps working on Terra. And so first, I want to talk about creating a workspace. I then want to talk about how to pull in some data. For this example, we're going to use the Census American Community Survey. And then lastly, I'm going to just show you a very, very simple visualization of some of this data. So for creating your workspace, I'm going to go back to those recorded videos. And so we're going to start here sorry, I'm going to jump back for a second. So in that left-hand menu that you get to by clicking that hamburger icon, you're going to click the workspaces menu. And that's going to take you to this page right here. So here, as long as you've registered for ScHARe properly, you should see both the ScHARe and the ScHARe Think-a-Thon workspaces. But what we're going to do is we're going to go up to that plus button next to the workspaces. And this is going to allow you to create your own workspace where you can start writing your own analysis code. And so yeah, we have the ScHARe and ScHARe Think-a-Thon, but we're going to click that plus button. That's going to bring up this menu here. And so all you need to do to get a workspace set up is you need to give it a name. And so like we talked about in the last section, these workspaces are kind of affiliated with like one project. So you can kind of think of like what's a useful project name that you might associate that workspace with. But again, for this tutorial, I was keeping things simple and just called it TerraFan. You're then going to select the billing project that is going to power that one. Think about that diagram we had where one billing project powered those 3 different workspaces. This is where you're making that selection. And then you have a couple of different options like the data center that will store all of the data. The default here is the Google Data Center in Iowa. You are welcome to change that if you so desire. And then you can enter in a description and share it with certain people using the groups feature, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So if you filled out the workspace name and you've selected a billing project, then you are all set to go ahead and click that Create Workspace button in the bottom right to get set up there. So we'll do that one more time. So we're here in the Workspaces menu, and you're going to look for that plus button next to Workspaces. You're going to enter in a name for the workspace, and you're going to pick a billing project to go along with that. And once you've done those two things, you are all set to create the workspace that you can start generating data analysis code in.
So one of the questions in the chat is, what is the additional security monitoring? Some of these are more advanced features, and we can work with you later to kind of go over them. But it's just a way to keep your workspace a little secure when you're having more collaborators in it. So, but we're happy to work with you after the call. I mean, after the Think-a-Thon. Mark?
Okay, so that was all that you need to do to create a workspace. So now let's talk about where you can pull some data in from. And so as we previewed in Deb's portion in the intro, there are 3 data sources that you can pull into Terra. One is you can upload your own data. So maybe you've run your own study, you have an Excel sheet with a bunch of data from your study. You can upload that onto your Terra workspace and run analyses on it. The second one is that you can pull in data sets that are already hosted on Google. And we're not going to go over this today. We have some tutorial notebooks for this that you can check out. But the tool to be able to do this is something called Google BigQuery. So you can pull in these Google hosted data sets.
And by the way, that we do have a notebook with that, and it's just a matter of cut and pasting it into your workspace.
Exactly.
Very easy.
Yep. So the last one, the one that I will show you today, is using a data set that's on the ScHARe workspace. So that data tab that I just showed you all in the last part, I'm going to show you how to pull in one of those data sets and make a really simple plot from it. So here's where the data can come from. So for this example, we're going to go to that data tab, and I was really interested in some data from the American Community Survey. And what I really wanted was data about every county in the US for the year 2023. So in the data tab, you'll see that I searched for the American Community Survey, or ACS, and it pulled up 14 results in the main data table. And then I went down looking at this ID column, and I found the data set for 2023. So this is exactly the data set that I was looking for. And what I need to get it into a notebook to start working with is I need basically the URL that points to this data set. So I go over to that data tab, and I'm going to click that clipboard icon, and that's going to copy the URL. And you'll see where this comes to play in just a couple slides here. So once I have that, I'm ready to bring this data set into a Terra workspace where I can start doing some analyses.
Okay.
Yeah, what's up?
Mark, let's go over that part again about copying the URL and where to find it.
Yep.
A little slower with that.
Absolutely. Okay, so the data I'm looking for this example is county level data from the American Community Survey. So I'm in the data tab on Terra, and I go over to this search box, and I typed in ACS for American Community Survey. I hit the search button, and then I found 14 results here in the main data table. So I clicked on that, and this brought up all of the results. And I went down and I wanted the 2023 data. So I looked and I found the 2023 data down here at the bottom. And what I need to do to get this into a notebook to do some analysis on it is I need the link to this data set. And so to get that, I went over to the data tab. I scrolled down until I saw this clipboard icon pop up for that particular data set. And I hit the clipboard icon. And that copied essentially a link to that data set that I'll use to pull it in to my notebook later on. And so now we have everything that we need to bring in this particular data set into our Terra workspace. Okay, we have a question. Do the data sets have metadata to review before adding data to a workspace to compare which data sets to utilize, or is it hit or miss? Great question. So the data dictionary column is where we have uploaded all of the code books or data dictionaries that you can use. So you can browse these PDFs first to make sure that the data you're looking for is actually in that data set. Okay, glad I can answer that question. Awesome. Okay, so that is how we're going to get the data in. So the last thing that we need to do is actually load in the data in our notebook on Terra and take a look at some of it. And so to do that, I want to kind of just overview this, and I'll very quickly walk through some of the code. So we have that county level data set that we identified. We're going to bring this into a Jupyter notebook. And my goal is I really wanted to look at a histogram of median income by county for the year 2023 from this survey. So we're going to use this data set to produce that histogram in the Jupyter notebook. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring up some of the Python code that I used to do this. And we've done a couple of other Think-a-Thons about Python, and there's a lot of resources out there. So I'm not going to explain every single function that I'm using here. My goal is to give you a broad overview of some of this. And there's lots of really, really good examples for very similar things on those tutorial notebooks. So my goal is, again, just to give an overview and a flavor of what's possible, and not to walk through every single step of what's going on here. But at a very high level, the first thing that we want to do is copy in that data set. And so I'm going to use this copy function, and this here, this gs:// fc ScHARe, this is that URL that I copied from the data tab. So if we want to jump back for 1 second, when we were over here and I hit that copy to keyboard, that is what that copied. And so we can now take that and put that into our notebook with this URL. So this copies this in. The next thing that we need to do is I'm going to bring in a library of code, and we're going to talk a lot more about common libraries in a future Think-a-Thon. So stay tuned for some of that. But I'm going to bring in a library that's going to help me store that data. So this line of code brings in the library. And then this line actually reads in that data set. So this is telling the computer, find this file, acscounty2023.csv, and put it into this variable that I just called data.
So what Mark just did is what we talk about on the ScHARe platform, is that when you don't know Python, it's okay, because we can just do cut and paste. And he just demonstrated that cut and paste feature for you. You don't have to write it out. So if you didn't have that cut and paste, you would have to type out this code. And that's what they call coding in Python. But you don't have to do that, because you know that if you bring from the ScHARe notebooks, import pandas as PD, then you know that it's prepping the system to start to use Python. That's how we start to use Python. And then we're bringing the data set into the workspace. And so it's just a cut and paste code. You don't, and as I said, we're not going through all the details of it. He's highlighting the cut and paste feature that you can do here.
Yes, exactly. Thanks, Deb. So now that we have the data loaded in, the next thing I want to do is kind of just a quick gut check. Did I actually pull in the data that I wanted to? And so to do this, I'm going to do this really simple line of code that just looks at the top 10 rows. When I do that, I see this output where we see each line of these is a single county. So here we have a couple of counties in Alabama. And we're seeing all of these different variable names in the columns and certain values that correspond with those variable names. So this looks good. I pulled in the data set I was looking for. So now we can go on to the next step. And to be able to make a plot, I need to bring in a different library of code that's going to help us with data visualization. And for this, I'm going to use this library called matplotlib and bring that in. And the last thing that I need to do is tell the computer that I want to find the median income and make a histogram of that. So here's the lines of code to do that. And you're going to see this. We're going to make a histogram. We're going to look in that data table. And I'm going to pull out this column DP03_0062E. Now, how the heck did I know that that was the right one to get median income? Well, I went to the data dictionary. This is to answer one of the questions that we had in the chat. So this is a screenshot from the codebook. I just Control F for median to find median income. So I found this row here. And this estimate of inflation-adjusted median income in dollars is exactly what I was looking for. So that field is that DP03_0062E. And so I knew to put that into this over here. And again, back to that idea of cut and paste code, you could take this code and maybe you didn't care about median income. Maybe you cared about some other feature that's in this data set. You could look it up in the code book, and all you would have to do is copy and paste that variable name right here, and it will generate a histogram for you. So once I have this code, these are just to add labels to them. We can look at the output, and here I have my output of median income by counties for all of the counties in the US in the year 2023. So with just these very simple 6 lines of code, we've pulled in some data, we've taken a look at it, and we've put out this histogram.
So I think with Mark's demonstration here, you can see how easy it is to picture any bit of your data and never write yourself a single bit of Python code, because it's all there for you. And all you have to do, as he showed you, is to change the code in the Python code. And then you can run it for any data variable that you want.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a question in the chat about pulling in multiple data sets, combining them, applying code, running analysis, and presenting a visualization. And yes, you can do all of that in a Jupyter Notebook on the Terra workspace. It's just a matter of being able to know all the different functions that allows you to do all those things.
And actually, this is one of the features that I hope we have enough time to cover today. We also built a tool in the repository that Elif will go over that actually brings in, allows you to aggregate data sets.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Mark.
So this was kind of an annotated walkthrough of this code. I just want to show you all, this is what this actually looks like in one of the Jupyter notebooks. So these blue lines here, what we call comments. And so you can see that even with some comments, this is about 12 or 13 lines of code, and you've pulled in a data set and made a really simple visualization. And these are the kind of things that we have on those tutorial notebooks that you can copy and paste to run your own analyses. So just want to emphasize that this stuff seems really scary, but once you kind of take the jump and dive in, you can start to figure a lot of really cool things out relatively quickly. All right, so that is the last thing that I wanted to show you. So in total, we started with not having an account at all. We were on the ScHARe website. We went through, registered for ScHARe, started our Terra account, linked it to Google Cloud. I showed you all of the resources that are on the ScHARe workspace, the data sets that you can pull from, and some of those example notebooks that you can use. And then finally, we created our own workspace, pulled in some data, and did a really simple histogram from this. So this is hopefully everything that you need to know to get started and up and running on the Terra platform. And so I have one more comprehension question for you all. Kevin, again, if you want to take over. Which of the following is false about the data tab in the ScHARe workspace? A, Terra can input your own data to use for analysis. B, you can run your own analyses in the ScHARe workspace. C, Terra can input data from the ScHARe workspace or Google. Or D, Terra currently supports writing analysis code in R or Python. So I'll give you all a second to answer that, and then we will see what we're thinking. All right, Kevin, let's give it like 5 seconds. Okay, I think I maybe tripped y'all up there a little bit with the which one is false. So the correct answer here is B. You can use resources that are in the ScHARe workspace, but you actually have to create your own workspace to run your own analyses. You can, so for A, you can bring in your own data to use. We didn't do that in the example, but you can upload your own data. C, you can bring in data from the ScHARe workspace. That's what I just showed you. or you can bring in stuff from Google. And again, we have tutorial notebooks on the Google BigQuery tool. And then D, we currently support writing code in R or Python, and we are working on implementing SAS. So apologies for being a little tricky with the question wording there, but I hope that you learned a little bit about getting started in the ScHARe workspace and in your own workspace for running your own analysis with that tutorial. So that wraps up my section. I don't know, Deb, if we want to pause for any questions there, if we want to keep moving.
We're going to keep moving. Thank you,
Okay.
Mark.
All right, thank you all.
And now Elif is going to take over, and in her presentation, she's going to teach you how to log in to the ScHARe registry, data registry. And while she's loading up her slides, I'll answer this question in the chat. Yes, we are adding SAS to the tools because not everyone knows Python and R. So we're going to add SAS. We're in the process of user testing it and case testing it now. So we hope that it'll be available within a month or two, probably at the beginning of the year, which is also when we're doing the full launch of the repository. So now I'm going to turn it over to Elif, and she's going to walk you through how to use the repository.
Thank you, Deb, and thank you, Mark. So now, as Deb said, I'm going to introduce you to ScHARe repository. Okay. So ScHARe repository is a platform centered around CDs. It's designed for population science, health disparities research, and social scientists. And because of that, it fills a unique niche in data sharing ecosystem in NIH. The repository complies with NIH data management and data sharing policies. And the repository overall is a secure collaborative platform and has capabilities for hosting and sharing project data with required privacy levels. And also, users can host federated datasets and collaborate with others. Let's look at how you can utilize the ScHARe repository. So you can upload, store, annotate your data with a data dictionary aligned with the ScHARe CDs. You can assign your data, and you can assign CDs to your data and link it with other datasets. You can find federated datasets and collaborate with others. You can aggregate data with other datasets, and you can also manipulate your data. And the last thing, you can share your data with others with required privacy levels, which is aligned with NIH data sharing policy, as I mentioned. Okay. So briefly, the ScHARe repository allows NIH and non-NIH funded researchers securely store data, and it also provides access to shared datasets, use CDs for organization, and support different privacy levels. And this repository also enables collaboration. Let's get started using the repository. So the platform is not open to outside of NIH yet, but soon it will be publicly available. Because of that, we are going to use the test site today. If you'd like to follow along, you can go to the this link, and you can participate demo. Okay, link is also in the chat. Okay. I'm going to walk you through the sign-in step using slides that I prepared. Then I'll switch to the live demo. So sign in the repository, it's really straightforward. If you click on sign in, if you are in the test site, you will see the welcome page. Because now we are using the test site today, this page shows NIH login only. But if you click on the login button, you will see different options. You can select the most appropriate login method for you, but today I'll sign in using my Google account. You can use the same Google account you signed in for Terra. After selecting Google in the previous page, now the page redirects you to select your account and then requires confirmation. If you click continue, the following page shows what information will be visible to the system. And after granting access, you will see the page with terms of use. Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure if the research organization function is fully available, but you may use your Google account today. Seems like most people have problem using research organization. Okay, I'll continue. So after seeing terms of use, granting access, you need to accept the terms and conditions. That's the first one. Then code of conduct, privacy policy, and community guidelines. When you accept all, we sign in the system. So this is the welcome page, and let me give you a quick tour of the site. Here you can see the recently accessed links and your collections. And the next documents, you can see the ScHARe documents and learn more about the ScHARe platform. You can see both private and public data and collections, all the collections you have access. And you can view CDs. Using the search bar, you can search across all the data you have access. And with the username here, it's ScHARe demo for my username. You can manage your user information. Okay. Now I'll log into the repository using my Google account and walk you through the steps required: data upload, mapping CDs, and data aggregation. Let me move. Here, that's my welcome page, and I'm on the test site today, signing as ScHARe demo. So now, we can go to collection page. Actually, we can look at first like the documents. What's here? I mentioned documents tab, but here you can find all the documents available and all the agreement you sign in when you log in. And under collection, you will see your collections and also like publicly available collections in the system. And CDs show ScHARe CDs. And if you click each of them, you will see detailed description of the CDs. And here, my username shows my username, email, and also profile visibility. You have two options in the profile visibility. So the first one is actually the default one is public one. When you sign up, you will see your profile is visible. Public means like anybody can see your username. But if you select unlisted, your profile will only be visible to users who are in the system or member of groups. Group option is not available right now, but it will be available when the repository is publicly available. Now I'll go back to the collection page and create a collection.
And when she means collection, she means it's your data set collection. It's what you're going to do to upload your data into the repository. It's called your collection.
Yeah. Thank you, Deb. So as Deb mentioned, let me briefly describe what is collection before creating a collection. Collection in the repository is your first step organizing your data. Collections can be described and stored with any metadata. Basically, it's the combination of your data sets and documents. Okay, now we can go back to the live demo. And create our first collection. To be able to create collection, we are in the collection page already. You can go to the top right and click on the create new collection and provide a clear name and brief description in the abstract. Remember, you can change all of the name, abstract, and anything in the collection. You can change it later, but here I'm just going to add data. And then in the abstract, I will just like to briefly provide like the today's date and what will be in the collection. Now under abstract, you will see tags and project CDs. So the tags are the ones, like those are the keywords to make your data findable. You can select the ones relevant to your data sets. If you click on tags, you will see a bunch of keywords. It depends on your research area and it depends on your data sets, what you're going to upload to the system. You can select different tags. Today, I'm going to select state level data, and I will add one more tag, which is cross-sectional study. If you look at project CDs, as Deb mentioned previously, the project CDs, project level CDs, describes the intersection of different aspects of your collection, aligned with NIH framework and health disparity outcomes. And these are also depends on your collection, what you will store in the collection. You can select different levels of influence, domains of influence. Today, I'm going to select the individual one. I have individual data. And then for domains of influence, I am going to select the most appropriate one is sociocultural environment. For those project level CDs, you can go back and look at the NIMHD framework to learn more about those and how those different project level CDs apply to your collection and your research. For the research areas, I have also like different options. I'm going to skip those now, and I will just create a collection. When you click submit, you will see a notice up right. It says collection was successfully created. Now I have my collection. Let's look at what we see here. Here, in this collection page, we see the collection name, and we have links, documents, data items, metadata. So these are the sections. You can upload your links, documents, your data, and also shows like the metadata. And on the right sidebar, you will see access level, analysis readiness, CD compliance, and tags. So I will cover this part, access level and analysis readiness, a little bit of later after uploading data sets. You can always click on the collection name to go back, or you can click on the collections to see all the collections. After this, I am going to upload a data set. But before uploading data sets, I have a Slido question I would like to share. Kevin, if you'd like to take over.
Yeah, Elif, is this the correct
Yes,
Slido
yes,
question?
yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. So just to get some idea about the data sharing, the question is which of the following data types you are most comfortable sharing publicly? Health data, environmental data, behavioral data, or other data sets?
Okay, Olive, go on.
Thank you. Let me share again.
Yes, it is environmental data because there's no PII typically in environmental data.
Now, I'll move to the next part of my slides, which is uploading your first data sets. So we look at the collection briefly. Right now, I don't have any data sets, and you may not have any data set readily available to use. What I am going to do, I will go back to publicly available collections in the repository and download one data set. Then I will use that data and upload it to my collection. I'll go back to collection page. Under public collections, I am going to go to like the past Think-a-Thon and go to the data items. And here you can see one data set in this collection. If you click on three dots, you can download the data set. I will just download this. Now I'll go back to my collection. So in this page, links and documents shows that all the files you are going to use for your research or related to data sets, you can use that links and documents section and upload them. If you click on add new, I don't have any links or documents for today, but if you click on that, you will see an upload section, and also on the next, you can see a PubMed search where you can search the keywords related to your research or the data sets and find related literature from PubMed. You can also add links. So today I don't have anything. I'm going to cancel this.
So
But
the other thing that you can upload here is your data dictionaries, publications that you've had, anything else that you want to use to support your collection of data.
Thank you, Deb.
You might have a model card.
Yes, anything you have related to your data, you can upload using links and documents. For data items, you can upload different data files, including CSV, Excel, SAS, SPSS, or other data items. You can either drag and drop, or you can use the browse files to upload. Let me find my data set. I just downloaded. I'm going to drop the dataset file here, then I'm going to click Upload Files. Now I can see that the file upload completed. When I click OK, the repository will prompt me to assign CDs automatically. That's the next part of the demo I'm going to cover. But before mapping CDs, assigning CDs to datasets, I would like to mention that we have two different options. After uploading datasets, we can automatically assign CDs, but we can also show you. So we have two options. The first option is assigning CDs after uploading your data. So when I click on OK after file upload, I will see something like this in the following steps, that the system will use the variable names in my data and will match those with the ScHARe CDs automatically. And I can check if there's any validation errors, if there's a mismatch with the CDs and my variable names. That's my first option. But the other option is if my data doesn't align with the CDs, if there's something different, so I can also map CDs manually after uploading data. So first, I'm going to use the first option. And click OK here. Now we can see the system shows me that I can assign CDs to my data sets. And I have two options here. I can either use the variable names, column headers, or I can manually assign it after uploading data. So I'm going to select the first option and then click Next. Now you can see in the screen. So these are the ScHARe CDs. Under ScHARe CD, you will see all the available CDs. And uploaded data is my data set. And that shows the variable names match with the CD names. And next to uploaded data, you will see either check marks, green check marks, or the red X. That shows the data validation. So it seems like the age variable match, age units in my data sets also match, and I don't see any validation errors. And zip code also, it matched. I don't see anything. But race and ethnicity variable, I can see the validation error. If you hover over the X, you will see the details of the validation error. Seems like the race and ethnicity categories in my data do not match with the CDE. If you click on the menu, you can see I have several race and ethnicity categories in my data set. So in this data, race and ethnicity, participants had option to select multiple race and ethnicity categories. So in the data set, race and ethnicity was coded as binary variables, indicating each race and ethnicity variable is one category in the race and ethnicity CDE. So since there is a validation error, right, for race and ethnicity, so I can just remove this CDE, then I can assign it later. Let's look at gender. I can also see the validation error here. For the gender variable, seems like some of the categories, my gender categories in the data sets, do not label as the standard version of the CDE categories. So let's see, transgender labeled as just trans. So I need to fix those errors first, then I can assign gender CDE to my data set. I will also remove this. Now, all the CDEs, assigned CDEs, show no validation error, and I will click assign. Okay. Now here, let's look at the collection page again. I can see the data set. And now I can see the access level, which is by default is private when you create a new collection. And analysis readiness shows ready. If you click on that, the ready, you will see different metrics showing whether is there a metadata, is there any CDE assigned, if there's access level and validation process pass. And if you look at the CDE compliance, you will see 8 of 19 CDEs were assigned. And if you click on the CDEs, you will see the details, list of CDEs that match in my data sets. And you can also click on each CDE variable and see the details. Now we completed the first part, actually, assigning CDEs. That was my option 1. Now I can move to the second option, assigning CDEs manually.
So, Elif, I just want to kind of recap what you're doing here.
Mhm.
So the repository has the ScHARe CDEs in it. And what we're doing now is we're mapping. So when you take your data set and you upload it into the ScHARe repository, the system is going to ask you to map the data to the shared data set or the ScHARe CDEs. You can do it in the automatic way that Elif just showed you, or you can do it manually. What is important about this is that you can ask a question like, what is your full address in your research? But when you deposit the information into the system as a CDE, the only thing that we're going to use of the full address is the zip code. So it doesn't mean that the full address is lost. The full address will be stored with the data in the repository. It's just this additional layer that we are mapping CDEs. The reason this is important, as I said in the prior part of my presentation, is that it increases data interoperability. And what happens is that, and Elif will show you this a little bit later, there's an icon on the front page, and it tells you how many of your data points mapped to the ScHARe CDEs. So when you go to look to aggregate data sets, of course, you're going to look for data sets that have more CDEs that are mapped, because then it's easier for you to aggregate them. And now she's going to show you how to do it in a different way.
Thank you, Deb. So as I show you, like the 2 of the variables in my data sets, all the categories labeled differently than CDEs, or the variables itself created differently. So on those cases, you can use a data view to map CDEs in a repository. Or you have another option. You can actually use your own tools like the Excel or any other software. You can match the categories or the variables with the CDs, then re-upload your data. So I'm going to show you how to use the data view. First, I'm going to explain what is a data view. Then I'm going to show you how to use a data view to map CDs and later aggregate data. Okay. So data view is a feature that allows you to take raw data such as CSV files or like the different files and apply different transformation, including sorting, mapping to CDs, and there are also other options. So this transformation process helps prepare your data for analysis by making more structured and align with the CDs and also research standards. So to map CDs using data views, we need to start by creating a new data view. So I'm going to switch to the repository again. Then I'm going to first click on the data. When you click on the data set name, you will see in this view, you will see the data set itself. And you can also look at, if you upload data dictionary, you can see it here. But right now, what I see, all the assigned CDs. And you can see the metadata related to my data set I uploaded. So let's go back to the table view. So for each variable, you will see like the little information next to the variable name. So for those variables that were matched with the CDs, you can click on that and you can see the information related to CD, assigned CDs. And if there is no CD were assigned, you will not see anything next to the variable name. You can see a little like green table icon here. So if you hover over, you will see if there's any error related to storage, parsing, or validation of your data. And the item operations, you can use this menu to create a table, create a data view, import RedCap data dictionary, and also like the download and export your table. So now I am going to create a data view. And I will give a different name. Example data view. Now I create a new data view. So what I can do, actually the data view is my data set, the actual data set. What I am going to do with that, I will just like the label or create new variables in this data set. So I am not editing my original data set, but I am just like editing this new data set, which is copy of my data. So here to assign CDs, yes.
I just want to add, the reason that you might want to do this is that as you map your CDEs, you may want to now rename the CDE, or I'm sorry, rename the data label so that it's easier, a little bit easier for you to use. So this is a feature that we add. It's not like you have to do anything to your data, because when you upload it, you may already have all the variables you want. Notice that up in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to load your dictionaries and all the kinds of background documents you need. Go on, Ella.
So to assign CDs manually, I'll go to Add Step. Then I will select Map Column. So the source is my data set, and source value is the value or categories in my the variables, and the target value and the target value is the new category name I will assign, which will match with the CDE, and the target column is the new variable name. So basically, I am creating a new variable using existing variable in my data set. So from the source column, I will select the gender variables. For the target column, I am going to label this as gender mapped. Now I need to assign each value from my existing data sets. I need to rename them actually. I'm just going to quickly look at the labels.
And it may be that you're renaming them to match the labels of the ScHARe CDEs, even though you used a different data label yourself in your original data set. You may want to, what you're doing here is you're renaming them to match the label of the ScHARe CDE. The reason this is important, remember, all of you guys who are scientists, the reason this is so important is because when you start to aggregate data sets, you can ask the same question and the same answers, but if you don't have the same data labels, it's very difficult to aggregate data sets. So this gives you an opportunity to rename your data label to like what the ScHARe CDE data label is, so that your data can be easily aggregated with other people who deposit their data. That's just one example.
Thank you, Deb. So I'm adding all categories.
Elif, don't do a lot of them, just a few.
Okay. Yeah. Look this done. Okay. So I assign like the 4 categories, I rename them and I create a new variable. So now I can just save data view, which will add the new variable to my data set. Okay, now I can go at the end of my file and I can see a new variable, which is gender map label S. And because I didn't assign all the categories, I didn't rename all the categories, some of them are like the empty, there is no value in it, but I have 4 categories that were mapped. And now what I am going to do, I will assign CDE to new variable, gender map variable. For this, I will go to add data elements and I'm going to select column from my data set and I'm going to select CDEs and I will match them. Okay, let's go to the select column and find the gender map. And the data element will be gender. Now I'm going to edit. Done. And I can see there's no validation errors here. And I can again go to the gender map and I can see the CDE assigned for this variable. I can just click on it, confirm that I assign gender variable here, CDE here, and I can see all the definitions. Now what I am going to do, race and ethnicity variable was also problematic. I need to assign those to the individual race and ethnicity categories. For this race and ethnicity variable, I don't need to create new variables. I can just go to add data elements and find race and ethnicity variable. Let's find the first one and select race and ethnicity. And then I can select the options. So for race and ethnicity 1, I'm going to select the first option, then add. Okay, let's click on done and look at if there's any validation error. I don't see any validation error here. Now I can just confirm if a CDA assigned to race and ethnicity 1, and I can tell here my race and ethnicity 1 variable was matched with American Indian Alaska Native category in the race and ethnicity CDA. Okay, now I'll go back and assign the others quickly. Then I'll move to the data aggregation. That will be enough. We have 2 race and ethnicity variables, and we have gender. We have also 8 other assigned CDs. So now I can actually go back to the collection page. Everything was saved. I can go back to collection page, collections, and find any other data sets I'm interested, and I can link those publicly available data sets to my collection, and I can use any data sets that I link to aggregate data. So there's a data sets in minority health collection. Let's go to the data items. I'm going to link MHSVI county data to my collection. To be able to do this, if you click on the 3 dots on the right, and if you click link to, then the next one will show you your collections that you can link. I'm going to select the demo data collection I created today and click on link. Now let's go back to my collection again, look at the data items. So the example data, the data I uploaded, the data view I created after uploading my data to assign CDs manually. Now I have another data set. Okay, now what I am going to do, I am going to create another data view to aggregate data. Remember I mentioned like the data views can be used for different options. I'll click on the 3 dots again, and I am going to create a data view. This data view, because I'm going to aggregate data, I will label aggregated data. Here's my table explorer again. To be able to merge data sets, basically what I'm doing, I'm going to add several variables to my data sets from the county level data. I need to go to steps. Then I'm going to select join. So in the join table, remember my source data is my example data view, which is the data sets I created after, and I assign all the CDs. I have 9 CDs assigned in this data set. Okay, this is my source data. So I am going to join the county level data. I'm going to select this. So the data view column will be the column names in the source data in my data set, which I am going to select zip codes. And the matching column from the join table, which is aggregated, which is county level data, I will find the same zip code. Now data sets are matched using zip code key variables. Okay, let me save this first. Then I am going to add another step. I'm going to add another step to get rid of some variables, because now I have a huge data set, because I combine my data set with county level data sets, and I don't need all the variables. I will go to add step and then select columns. Now I am going to move the variables that I want to keep. Okay. I'm going to keep the ID variable.
I think it doesn't matter what data set you're working with. I mean, she's just demoing some examples. But what you can see on this is that we've developed tools. So all you have to do is drag and drop tools that make it easy for you to do the mapping. And one of the things that we hope is that this is a very user-friendly data set or repository, unlike some of the others. So we're constantly trying to get feedback on how to make this easier and better for you. And what she's doing right now is just from the whole available column, pulling over her selected ones by dragging and dropping.
Now I selected several columns I'm going to keep, and I will click on Save Data View. Okay. Now we can see after merging data sets and selecting variables, I have a new data set that has all the information I want and all the variables I kept. Okay. Now I created a collection and created data views and merge data sets. Actually, I'm ready to share my collection with others. I can go back to collection page actually. And if you click on operations, you can see there's an option to share. So here, when you create a collection, the default is the collection is private. In order to share your collection with others, you need to change the privacy level, access level to confidential. The confidential level allows you to share with others and add users to your collection. Okay,
But that does not make it private. So when you select confidential, it just means that other people can see your data set. It doesn't mean that the whole public will see it. It doesn't make it public. It's just those who you want to see it. So you're sharing with selected others, like let's say people on your research team or your students.
Yes, thank you, Deb. And also there are also different access level for each users. So I just change the privacy level of my collection. Now I am going to share with other users using different privacy levels. So you have full control over your collection. So I am going to search myself. Now you can see there are different roles, like how you can share your collection with others. So readers can see the data sets, but cannot edit anything. Writer can see and edit data sets, and the admin access has, you give full control over your collection when you share it like this. I'm just going to select reader. Then I'm going to share. Now I can see the person I shared and the role how I shared. I need to click done. And now I created a collection and created datasets, assigned CDs, and share with my colleague. So that concludes my presentation, actually. And now I will turn it over to Deb.
Didn't you have a Slido right now?
Oh, yes, maybe we have time for one Slido question.
Yes, do the Slido question.
Okay. So if we can, yes, thank you. If you could share what conditions will make you more likely to share your data publicly, whether it's the privacy or your contribution to scientific advancement or any benefits or legal or ethical standards, or whether you will share it anyway.
This is interesting that some people won't share their data at all. This also gives us a perspective of sort of what the needs are in being able to ask any investigator to share their data, because it is your data. Okay, I'm gonna take over the screen. We just wanted to conclude what we went over today. I hope you can see. Yeah, Kevin, can you see?
Yes, we can.
So in conclusion, what we covered today is both in Terra, the Terra and the repository. So in Terra, we covered how to register, how you can access federated data sets that have no PII, so you don't need data use agreements to use the platform. You can go right on and use it now. You can combine data, you can put in your data into your workspace. You create your own workspace, and you can share that with others, or you can keep it totally private to yourself. You also have a plethora of computational tools and cut and paste coding for both Python and R. Very soon, we're going to have SAS, a statistical program, on the repository when it goes live. And then what Elif went over is the ScHARe repository itself, on how to get started, how to upload your data, how to map your data to the common data elements, the ScHARe common data elements. And this is the only repository, by the way, that is asking you to do this up front. The other repositories like Bricks is now starting to ask you to do this retrospectively. And that is not an easy task retrospectively. So we're trying to be proactive with this and do it retrospectively so that it's actually a little bit easier. And it makes it also, every data set that is going to be on the repository will have this mapping. And as Elif went over, those little icons will show you how many of the CDEs that they share. So if I'm an investigator and I want to look at another file that looked at the food availability for infant mortality, I'm going to look for another data set under that category that has as many CDEs mapped as I do, because then that means I can easily aggregate our data sets. We went over how you can share your data with your colleagues and create a shared workspace or a private workspace. And then she also went over just briefly how you can move your data into the ScHARe workspace to analyze it. So in concluding, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. If you got partway through the registration process today for ScHARe and you need more help to set up your accounts or to do whatever you need, please contact us at this email and we will get back to you within 24 hours. And we thank you for coming. And in the last thing, we're going to turn this back over to Kevin, and he's got a few questions that we use as evaluation. So if you could help us by doing these evaluation questions, it would be very helpful for us. And I thank you all for coming today. And I'm willing to take any questions while people are doing the evaluation. So if you want to ask a question, just video yourself and speak up. Or raise your hand. Or just jump in and ask. No questions? Yes, the certificates of participation are always available towards the end, and there will be a link and you download it yourself. And we can put instructions on how to do that in the chat. We like to give the certificates because it helps when you go to like the Aim Ahead and you're applying for other funding. When you demonstrate that you were part of the ScHARe program, we have created this pipeline, so it helps to show that. Any other questions? I agree. That's why we don't do a lot of individual. As there was an error in you guys logging on, I sent a message to our contractor wondering why this was not working. So my guess is that it should be working anytime soon because it's supposed to be working. So feel free to log back in. All right. If there's nothing else, then I'll respect everyone's time and we'll sign off. And hope you join us. Oh, by the way, we will have no Think-a-Thons in December because of school breaks and holidays. And we'll start back up in January. And if all of you have to be on our listserv, so you will get notice of future ones. And some of the future ones that we're going to do is using large language models to actually help you write code, like ChatGPT, and we're also adding Gemini to the ScHARe platform, which is a chat kind of GPT. Also, well, Google calls theirs Gemini, but it's about that. We're also going to do some series on bias mitigation and the tools that are available and the challenges that we have with the current tools. So we will have many different topics coming up in the near future, and we hope that you will join us next year. Thank you all for coming.